as always, thank you all for joining us here for another one of our Teamwrkr workshops. It's awesome to see everyone. And as the title of the slide says, it's about making 2023 your best year yet. I want to be clear that a lot of what we're going to talk about today is evergreen. You can do these things anytime you want, really during the year. You can pick and choose some of the things to do them on your own, in terms of just like, I want to do one or two of these things every once in a while. But December is always a great time to plan. So I figured we do this, this as a kind of a year-end thing. So talk about planning. I call you everyone on this meeting today is really a next generation business owner. You're all running your own businesses, whether you're working on your own, whether you're partnering with other freelancers, whether you're building something where you're hiring people. It doesn't, it's all building your own business. And so it's really important to think about it as just, setting goals and making a plan, helping you to stay organized, and identify opportunities and challenges that you might face going forward are really important as well, as and having some strategies to tackle them. I always say you can't manage what you can't measure. So, having a plan allows you to actually look at it and say, all right, I did this, did it work? Or, yeah, it did great, I should do more of that. Or these things didn't work, I should do less of those things. And it also allows you to think about really what are my strengths and weaknesses and what I can do to improve upon the weaknesses, et cetera, or maybe threats that are out there to me in my business, and how I should, improve in those areas or what opportunities I face. And then I think having a plan really inspires you because you have an opportunity to think about what, the future could hold, which is super exciting. And I know that, if I don't plan, sometimes like, oh, what's going on? And so I want to make sure I'm staying motivated. Planning helps me to do that. Now, it can be a little intimidating, so I don't want anybody to be like, oh gosh, this is some big, massive plan. I've done a lot of planning in businesses in the past, 3 and 4 and 5 year financial forecasts and crazy stuff like that. And I think it's just overwhelming, number one. I'm not sure it's helpful. I think keeping it really simple stuff, rewarding along the way is really important. So really just 5 steps as I got them here. One is to look back and think about what happened. So let's reflect, renew. Getting down to business, we'll talk about that, specific things you can do in your business to make sure that you're going in the right direction. Financial and tax planning, super important as a next generation business owner. So you want to make sure you do that now. We'll talk about why December is important to do that. Taking some time to have some gratitude and appreciation for what's gone on, and then resetting your mindset a little bit and recharging yourself for the next year. So I'm going to go through each 5 of these, obviously in some detail, but that's what we're going to do today. First is reflect, review, and prepare for the next step. When you look back, look at your goals for last year. If you had some laid out, how'd it go? Do you need to kind of reset based upon your experiences and have some new goals for this year? Did you actually achieve what you set out to do? So many things happen along the way. You might need to, you might have needed to shift gears. Who knows? You had a plan, and then in April you had to shift gears and do something else. That's okay. But if you had the plan, you can look back and say, this is what I did. Did it work? What else came up during your year that might have thrown you off your plan too? So understand that, reflect upon that, and make sure you incorporate that kind of stuff into what you're doing going forward. Now, being specific is really important as well. And I say, set your ideals. It's about progress, not perfection, right? So we want to make sure that you've got really good, tight goals for yourself, short-term ones, especially, so you can kind of get them and achieve them and see how it goes. Like I said, having a 5-year plan is kind of ludicrous for any business, really, unless you're, somebody who's clairvoyant. Make sure that you set ideals for where you want to be with your own personal finances and your personal growth and your professional development, right? As independent actors out here in the world, we don't have a manager saying, hey, you should do these things to develop your career. So make sure you incorporate those types of things into this plan as well. And then you want to have a forecast going forward. But I say, don't make it weird, right? Like, don't be so specific about one thing or too broad about another. Try to kind of, split the middle on a number of things and make it really workable. So think about, do I have several long-term contracts or take a couple of one-off projects going on right now? In order to be profitable, freelancers have to work continually. So, if it looks kind of bleak in terms of your forecast, amp up your marketing efforts right now. If it's crowded in your forecast, maybe now's the time to think about what are the great accounts that I have and the great clients I work with and the ones that aren't so great. And, thinking about how you trim and prune, like they say, pruning a tree helps it to grow. That's something that you can do as you're a more established freelancer. So make sure that you do that now too. So, again, just taking a look at where you were, being specific, and then getting your forecast together is really the first step to all of this. Once you have that, hey, you survived another year. You got to have something to show for it, right? So take a look at your portfolio. You've got these projects you did, no matter what it is. Maybe it was some website work you did for someone. Maybe it's a lot of writing you did. Maybe you worked on your own business. You got some stuff that, in your own business that you did that's really great to show other people. So update your portfolio with the examples of projects you completed. And I think it's important to note a list of clients that you worked with in the last 12 months. Take a look at that. That is really gold to you, right? Make sure you know who you've worked with, even if it's a small piece of work you did way back in February. Make sure you look at that. Now, careful when you develop your portfolio. Make sure, we all have contracts. You should have contracts with your customers and clients. Make sure that you're not, putting something in your portfolio and showing other people if it was proprietary work. Maybe it's a logo design or something like that you did. Make sure that's clear with your customers. So get approval before you put it in portfolio. But part of that too will be asking for testimonials. Go talk to your clients. Ask her for referrals and feedback and testimonials that you can use in your website and any kind of advertising, if you will, social media work that you do for yourself. Now, having this conversation is kind of twofold, because you can also help to understand what you did really well for your clients and what you might need to improve. And that's really what this is about, right? Reflecting in some ways, and talking to your clients is so huge for that. So taking a moment or two to go and reach out. And what I mean reach out is schedule a Zoom call. Don't just have a quick exchange over email or something. I know people are really busy, but if someone says, yeah, I'd love to talk to you, take advantage of that, because you can ask them, point blank, really frankly, what I can do to improve and help you as my client. And they're going to give you that feedback. Once you get that, you can really refine what you're doing. So taking a look at the service you offered last year versus what you want to do going forward. What's the pricing like? What's your process like? Got to be some improvements out there you could make. Maybe people are asking you for a service that you don't offer. Maybe you want to get some skills and do that next year. Maybe you want to partner with somebody else who does it. Things like that. So you might be able to generate some income from that. I don't know about you guys, but automation is huge right now. And you can really automate a lot of what you're doing to make your life easier, get some more free time, and also make sure that you are doing the work that you should be doing, the high value add work you should be doing, and be able to charge more for it. So look at your tasks, look at the things you're doing with tools you're working with, look for updates from them or new tools that are out there that you can use to incorporate into your workflow. And then don't forget to look at pricing. I find that people ignore pricing way too long. We've had some interesting conversations about this with this group along the way in this last 10 or 12 months that we've been working together. And pricing is really important to adjust along the way. Now is the time of year to do that. Another thing you can do, of course, is we talk a lot about working in your business, working on your business, right? So make sure that you're working on things like your own branding efforts. Take a look at your social media accounts. Simple things like, what's your photo looking like? When was the last time it was updated? I did that the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like an old picture of me. I should probably get rid of this, like a LinkedIn thing, like, my whatever, your profile pic is looking weird, dude. So get that fixed, right? And now's the time to do it. While you're doing all these things, make sure that you kind of have your checklist of what you want to improve, and simple things like getting your photo up to date, or just revamping the homepage, if you will, the whatever that you have that describes your business on whatever social media you're on. Make sure you do that. Check the link in bio, things like that. So now that you've got that done, one of the biggest things for folks like us is personal income, taxes, and then your retirement savings. And it's funny, this is the time of year that you really do need to work on that. I know what we're talking about here is really evergreen stuff, and I think you can do it any time of the year. But this type of planning, financial planning, is really important to do this time of year. And I'll give you a few reasons why. But first of all, remember that, we've had some webinars about this in the past. Taxes are a big part of what you have to deal with. Make sure you have tax, money set away to pay taxes. A lot of us have, you may have to do it throughout the year here in the United States. Of course, we do that. Are you putting enough money toward it? Are you confident about that? Have you managed it throughout the year? Also, this time of year, if you have some money to put into retirement savings, I know, again, one of our past webinars focused a lot on that with Hunter Boyd, who went really deep on it, which is great. But how to create a system for yourself for personal finances. You can't ignore your retirement savings. You're not part of a company that, has a retirement plan, pension, 401k, whatever that might be for in your part of the world. But retirement savings are really important, especially if you're thinking about this as your career choice, right? So make sure you're doing that. And right now is the time of year to talk to a qualified professional if you haven't already. Make sure you have someone that you're talking to that knows what they're doing, knows your situation as a freelancer, and has worked with people like you before. Another thing to remember, I know here in the United States, you're entitled to a lot of deductions for home-based businesses, including your office supplies, equipment. Maybe you bought, something big in the last year. You can take a deduction on that. I've even seen people get a portion of living expenses deducted because your office is located in your home. And so that's a really important thing to think about. Make sure you're checking into that. Again, sometimes there's online resources, but really a local professional to you, and local meaning in your country or your state region, would be really helpful for this. Last but not least, I know as well, in December, you can still take deductions like this, right? It's still calendar year 2022. So for tax planning purposes, get your deductions done now. And you've got, that's something you can do. Obviously you want to examine it throughout the year, but if you're short on your deductions, if you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do that, make sure you get in there and do it now. Once you got that kind of like not so exciting finance and tax stuff done, now you can move on to some more fun stuff. Call it sort of the gratitude and appreciation portion of your 2023 plan, which really is about thinking about what happened in 2022. So many times, we want to say thanks and we don't. And now's the time of year to do that. So having some gratitude and going back and talking to people that have helped you along the way can be super rewarding, not just, from your own personal feelings about it, but you're going to contact people like clients, mentors, and other collaborators, which could be other freelancers, of course. And that's just going to spur on more conversations for you and your business. So the gratitude portion of it, drives value for you, and valuing each other, clients, mentors, and collaborators, other freelancers. So reach out to them now and say thanks. Even if it's a quick DM or an email, something like that can go a really long way to making sure people know how much you value them. Another thing to do this time of year is to volunteer. I know a lot of charities are looking for help because they get overwhelmed around this time of year. And it's a super interesting way to go out and give back to your community, of course, and it feels great to do that, but you're going to meet a lot of new people as well when you do it. So that's going to improve your networking, just in terms of just getting out and meeting new people. It's so hard to do. We talk about that in terms of our Zoom-based existence. How do you meet new people? This is a great way to do it. And of course, you're giving back to your community. So, it's a great opportunity to get two things done at one time. Lastly here, think about connecting with people out there in events. There's lots of stuff going on. Some of it's online, some of it's local and in person. But I put the reconnect in here as well. Maybe you've lost touch with some people along the way, and you want to make sure that you go out and seek them out and reconnect with them. It's a great way to go back. Maybe it's a former client of yours. Maybe it's just someone you worked with as collaborating on a project, something like that. Maybe it's just a personal relationship. But go back and reconnect with people, because that's just going to inspire you to stay in touch with them along the way. Next year drives, of course, your personal network, but also your professional one as well. Now, last but not least is taking some time to reset and recharge. And the graphic here sometimes looks like my desk, with a bunch of stuff going all over it. And I need to, stop what I'm doing and, clean up. And we were talking about that even earlier about, maybe it's, is your setting right for where you're working? Take a look around, reset what you're doing. If you're the kind of person like I am that needs to have a neat and tidy workspace to be efficient, well, take some time and make sure that you've got the space organized for yourself to do that. Maybe you need a filing system, or maybe you need to slide your furniture around a little bit to make sure that it eliminates distractions. declutter shelves, stuff like that. Maybe you don't mind that kind of stuff, but you want, like, Kristen here on our call, she's got the angelic light behind her now. It's, it's great, right? Whatever works for you, that's awesome. But now's a chance to step back, think about that, and make sure that you're take advantage of any time that you have to organize and do that here. I would recommend doing this actually quarterly, because with the world changing so fast, looking at where you're working, what you're doing. I know some people returning to work in terms of seeing clients more often, et cetera. So, this is like an evergreen thing. You can do this on either, I'd say probably a quarterly basis, a good idea to look at your workspace and whatnot to recharge yourself. Holiday time, of course, is getting ready for another year of, your next generation business building. And yeah, the struggle is real, right? So you want to make sure that you schedule some days off. Oftentimes this time of year, people are taking downtime. So it's helpful if you don't have your clients demanding your time. But I think one of the things to think about, especially if you're newer to this freelancing situation, is that you budget it properly and you don't do more or less than what you planned. So it's great to be like, hey, I'm going to take some time off and recharge, and that's great. But you also have to remember that you are your boss, and you need to make sure you stay focused on building your business along the way. So budget your time. I know myself, hey, I'd love to go out and, see my friends every night of the week. And this is the time of year a lot of people would like to do that. But I also know that if I do that, I probably will be a little stuck come January 2nd. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally ignored that, or I didn't get back to that person. And, there's only so many hours in a day. So if you look at it now and you think about the rest of the month, you can put some things in your calendar and block out some time. Hey, maybe you look like I have some free time next week, and you are going to take a couple of hours just for yourself. We'll do that, but don't overdo that, right? So make sure that you have a plan in mind, and that's going to allow you to track against your business goals as well as your personal goals. So in summary, you want to keep this simple and make it fun. Go look, reflect, review, and prepare. Think about what happened, but start to chart your course going forward. Then take that into the next step, which is, what are the things that I need to do to, a simple thing, like I said, reset your, get your most up-to-date photo on your social media, or redo your landing page, whatever it might be. Simple things like that for yourself to make sure that you've got your business going in the right direction. Talking to your clients about what you can do for them as well is going to give you great insight to that. Do your finance and tax planning. December is the time to do that. Really important. You do not want to look back in April and be like, oh my gosh, I have this big tax bill and I did not plan for that. That's going to be a financial hit for you and financially limiting, and you don't want to have that happen. Take some time for gratitude. Get out there and thank people who helped you, especially your other freelancers and people you're working with. And then, budget some time to recharge. That's for sure. You want to make sure that you're doing, taking time for yourself this time of year when you can grab it. So hopefully that's all helpful for you guys. Any questions, thoughts, comments? I'll check the chat now. I've been kind of busting through this here. Let's see. Nice, Archive. Retiring by 30, that would be great. Yes, and finishing up, that's a great idea. I think it's Matarima, like, hey, finishing things up early, great way to budget your time. Matarima says, I want to finish everything by a certain date, and then I can kind of enjoy myself. And that's another way to do it. I myself am not that disciplined. I'd probably, get out too much with my friends and be having way too much fun. So I want to make sure that I budget that on a weekly basis. But yeah, that's a great idea too. Whatever works for you. And decluttering is powerful. I agree with that. When I look around, I find that if I'm just distracted by things, so easy to go, especially working from home, right? So easy to go do something else that's a personal item rather than stay focused and getting stuff done. Any other questions, thoughts? Happy to answer. And like I said, this is evergreen stuff, right? So you can definitely use this going forward.
No, I just wanted to thank you, Phil, for pointing out specifically the need to schedule your time as like a totally neutral fact. Like, it's not good and it's not bad. It's like, it's just something that you've got to do for yourself. Especially, I was wondering, because I was like, specifically this month, I was like, why do I feel like I'm a chicken without a head, right? Like, specifically, why does it feel like that? I was like, doesn't feel like that much has changed, but it's like making time for your clients, making time for the work that you want to do for yourself. And then also, of course, when you mentioned, like, I know a lot of my friends are trying to like get together and hang out. It's like, yes, like that's the other element that I haven't been able to pinpoint, is that I feel there's another social need calling, whether that's something that's calling from your friends or family or even self-imposed, because at least definitely in the States and for a lot of people, like it's the holiday season. So everyone's like, it's time to ramp up, it's time to be happy. And there's this pressure to
They're
there's
gonna
this
be
pressure
happy.
you're gonna be happy. You're like, if you are not feeling Christmas, like like, coursing through your veins right now, something is wrong, and you are running out of time. At least, okay, well, let me just say, let me stop with the use. I am running out of time to feel all the Christmas that I need to feel. And I think it's interesting to be like, why? It's like, it's sort of like December came and it brought that energy with it for me. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot of components. Like there's the professional component, there's the personal component. Now there's, for me, the Christmas component, where it's like, all right, how do I fit in also a good time among all the other things that I need to do?
Mhm.
Oh, and being honest about the fact that that exists.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a huge point you're making. It's like another element gets added in at this time of year where you have your normal social stuff where it's probably less pressure, right? Oh yeah, we'll get together. Okay, see you in a couple of weeks or whatever. But now it's like, oh no, we have to get together now. Like, okay, and that's adding into that time crunch, right? And I also, wonder about sort of end of year pressures in terms of it's the classic. Everybody shows up at their gym on January 1st or January 2nd. You're like, okay, well, okay, what are you doing, right? I think that's why I mentioned this along the way, that you can pull these things up and take a look at them throughout the year, right? If you have a plan, then you can pull it out. Like, okay, this plan stunk, it didn't work. Why not? But at least you have something to work from, rather than like, oh gosh, I really don't have any. I don't know why these things aren't working, right? I mean, we would never do that if you were setting up you would never set up an email campaign for someone, right? We're all kind of marketing space, set up an email campaign and they go, well, this won't care about click-throughs, or we won't care about what, how many people opened it, or if it got sent to their spam filter. But of course you care. Like, that's the part of the plan, right? Is to analyze and adjust. And we should take those things into our own businesses for sure. So it's a small example where, hey, have your plan and adjust. If for you, Kristen, it's like, oh, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, we'll sit down with your calendar for a minute. Sit on the counter. What am I really doing? Like Matt Rima said, I'm blocking out this time at the end of the year. I'm gone. That's like almost like a vacation in a way, right? Okay, I'm out and I'm going to recharge then. Versus, like myself, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, full disclosure, my son's getting married at the end of the year. So I have to be there. It's like a lot of like, oh, it's like pressure creeping in. I'm just, I'm the ultimate like nobody at this, because I'm like the father of the groom, right? So I have no responsibilities at all, really, other than just to like make sure. Well, I have to make sure that people show up on time, right? That's basically it. Right? I mean, we're going to the room now. Okay, everybody's go over here. So I'm just, herding kittens along the way. But it's adding in another element of pressure during the holidays, right? So yeah, I agree with you, Chris. Like, sit down, whatever plan works for you, get your calendar out. Makes me feel better to know that it's on there, and then my brain can kind of go to sleep on that and work on other stuff. So yeah.
It's true. Phil, actually everybody, because I was just thinking about this. I was like, what? I have like a couple of different calendars that I've maintained like throughout the year, but now that everything's on, and also, Christmas pressure, I was like, I need to get onto one to handle all this. So which ones do you like that you feel also don't give you anxiety when you look at it?
For me, Google is the best one because
Yeah.
you can customize it a lot, and then you can set what things you don't want to see, the things you want to see. You can prioritize. And what I do with my calendar is I create slots that are in like white or green. That I know that, okay, if I see any green slots, that means I don't have to work anymore. But because I
Mm.
create those things, other people are not able to book on those times at all. So I block out myself these slots around the day, and these are movable by me, but I block these out. So this gives me a lot of freedom, and I pick the color green because green is calming for me. So like if we see on a white space, we see red a lot of it, then that's going to be tense. So pick out what color helps you the most and customize it on Google. And because everyone will end up booking meetings with you as well in one way or the other, and that's going to show up on your Google Calendar. That be with Zoom or Google Meet, it's going to show up there. whatever events you sign up for is going to be there. So Google Calendar is the best one for me. Because that's what I like. And by the way, Phil, we do require pictures from the wedding and everything. So yeah, please send them over.
Yeah, because you haven't invited us. We need
Yeah,
to
no one got
virtually at
it.
least
From
be
what
we are there.
Yeah,
From
set
what
up
we're
a
paying
Zoom
for the
meeting.
photographer,
Work
they're
this
on
out.
Yeah, right. I'll be posting. I'll be live streaming, I think. I know. For what we're paying for the photographer, we should have plenty of photos, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And they're artists. They're getting married in Maine, actually, way up.
Yeah.
It'll
Wow.
be
It's
like
beautiful
snow.
on those
They're
times,
big
right?
skier. They're skiers. They like to ski, and so they decided to get married at like a ski resort and
All right.
on New Year's Eve. So I have to wear a tuxedo. Like I literally, like, it's a black tie. Can you imagine this? I can't. Sorry, choking me. No, it'd be fun. But yeah, I'll make sure to get them over to you. But you make a great point, Ark. I mean, Tristan, I think that, and anybody else, like, I mean, I have used every calendar and planning tool probably out there, unless it's been launched today, right? And I'm going to try it tonight, right? It's so hard to figure it out. But I'm an old Microsoft guy, so I tended to use Outlook as my client to view things. But I'm more enamored of the Google side of things than ever now. And I think that Ark makes a great point. You can still do all those things too, whatever one that you use, but like colors or blocking time. And then also, does anybody use like an automatic scheduling tool? I use Calendly, for that type of stuff where you're like, oh, set a it's like the big thing, set a meeting with me, right? I think that's super great to, when you set it up, you're like, I can only do meetings this time of day because I have to work on my other stuff. So that allows you to like pre-format, like it makes you think about it, right? Like I'm going to not take meetings. When am I most productive to work on these things that I have to do focused work on? Or when I'm going to set aside a time for meeting with just, my team, if you will, or the people I'm working with, whatever it is. So you can do that for like a month or two and see how it goes, but it allows you to really, really, I think, format your life a little bit better, right? Say, okay, this is how I'm going to organize this.
Another thing that I would like to add to this, Phil, is the buffer thing that you get with any scheduling software. Like I use OneSub, but you can even add buffers that, if you can't have more than 2 meetings of a particular kind in a day. And you can even be like, so the moment this meeting ends, I need to at least have 1 hour gap before someone else books. So I do a lot of meet and greets, and those are like 15 minutes. So I put 10 minutes gap between each meet and greet as well. Because I know sometimes I'm meeting that person, they show up late, or the meeting goes very interestingly. So that can go long, but I do add a buffer time. And platforms like Calendly or OneSub, they allow you to integrate both ways. So you can actually stop people from booking on things that you have already had. But also all your other calendars are in sync. So people can't book on your free time by mistake. And if you have multiple calendars, like for work, for friends and stuff like that, it's easy to manage that. Like I don't use Calendly because of their API, but I use OneSub. So yeah, but I know that in both the platforms, it's really great. And that's one of the best things, like the buffer factor, because you can be like, I can't have more than 5 of these meetings in a week or more than 1 of these meetings in a day. And I don't want to have more, like, even if you're having multiple meetings in a day, it should have at least half an hour of a gap based upon your amount of energy that you spend in a meeting, because Zoom fatigue is different for everybody. But yeah.
Thanks, Arkan.
Yeah, I kind of want to add on to that, Kristen. The thing is a couple of things, right? Both Phil and Arkai mentioned really great points. I was actually making a time management course, and I was figuring out that everyone has different ways of managing their time. So my best solution for you or advice for you would be to experiment with different tactics out there. So for example, when I look at Arkai's calendar, it gives me anxiety because it's filled with stuff, and I'm like, like I automatically start breathing heavily because I'm like, that looks chaotic as hell, and it matches his personality completely, and it matches how he likes to work completely. But I like to say like, oh yeah, I have 4 meetings in a day, and I have what I was mentioning, I have this thing in my calendar that no one can book more than 4 meetings in a day, and every meeting has to have a 30 minutes buffer for me, because things might go really well and then I'll have to kind of postpone, and I don't like to do that. So I have a 30 minutes meeting buffer, and I only do 4 meetings a day. But my suggestion would be to honestly go out there and experiment. Now again, you mentioned that there's a lot of overwhelm happening right now, so you can do that next year as well. You don't have to get it done right away. But go out there and experiment with different things. If you like to time block, that is one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs do, is the time block, right? The time block in a particular day, or the time box, which is a completely different thing, where they put a deadline that I have to finish this by this particular time of day, right? things work differently for every individual. For me, I like seeing a white calendar, like my calendar being completely open except for 4 meeting slots. For Arka, it's completely different. So experiment, go out there and see what works best for you. I feel like that would be the best solution. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really agree with that for sure. Yeah, different personality, different work structure, whatever it is. There's no one size fits all, but yeah, I don't like to look at my calendar when it's like meetings back to back to back to back to back. You're like, oh no, how am I gonna breathe today? Yeah, I feel you on that. So buffer's a good idea. I love that. Well, I really appreciate everyone attending today.